In this video, we'll see some basic tips to solve critical reasoning questions. So critical reasoning questions can be of different types. It could be assumption based, evaluation, or weakening or strengthening. Or it could be boldface kind of a question. So these are 3-4 basic types of critical reasoning questions that we have in GMAT. So let's see some evaluate kind of questions. So mostly in evaluate kind of questions, the situation will be, there'll be some reasoning. For example, X is causing some effect. And based upon that reasoning, a decision has to be taken. So now if you see the question here, the answer to which of the following would be most useful for evaluating the reasoning. Okay, most useful question means different answers to the questions can give me different reasoning and hence different conclusions. That's what we call a most useful question, right? If the question doesn't have any bearing on the outcome, it's not the most useful question, right? The first thing is get the reasoning clear. 80% mistakes happen because the reasoning or the conclusion is not correct. So if you read the phrase, the paragraph correctly, it says the save all discount stores cause bankruptcies of other stores, and hence we must not have save all stores. So that's the reasoning. So we need to see if the opening of save all stores is the sole cause of bankruptcies. Okay, if the answer is yes, we'll have one kind of reasoning, we'll have one kind of decision. If the answer is no, we'll have the exactly opposite conclusion. So if you see the first option, have community activists in other towns successfully campaigned against the opening of a save all store in the outskirts of the towns. So the activists campaigning against save all stores, does it affect the reasoning? No, not really. It has nothing to do with the reasoning of this thing. Do a large percentage of the residents at Morganville currently do almost all of their shoppings? Again, does it impact the reasoning? Not really. In towns with healthy central shopping districts, what proportion of the stores in those districts suffer bankruptcy during a typical 5-year period? So now we are talking about bankruptcy. Okay. Now if answer to this question is yes, that means even if save all stores are not there, bankruptcies are happening. That means save all doesn't affect the bankruptcy at all. If the answer is no, that means save all might be a good reason, might be one of the biggest reason why bankruptcies are happening. So this looks like a good question to ask. Let's see the other two options also. What proportion of the employees at the save all stores will be drawn from Morganville? Again, it has no bearing on this reasoning. Do newly opened save all stores ever lose money? Again, we are not talking about whether save all stores lose money, whether they could go bankrupt or not. So if you see, just write the reasoning in front of you so that you have the, you have this in front of you at all, right? So you might get confused with some option if you lose the track of the reasoning. Let's see other question. So the reasoning here is this book, which is called, whose name is 1984, has a lot of influence on a lot of people. Okay, that is the conclusion. And it is based upon what? A lot of people, 1984 was the second most, it came on the second number when people were asked which book has the most influence on their lives. Okay, after the Bible. So this reason is taking us to this conclusion. So now let's see which question can change the reasoning. How many books had each person surveyed read? Does it matter? Maybe he has read one book, or maybe let's say he has read 1,000 books. So you might have this temptation to conclude that if a person has read a lot of books and then he's choosing 1984, then it's a fair conclusion. But if a person has read only one book, which is 1984, let's say, then he'll mark only that book. Now, can we say that if he had read 20 or 50 more books, then he'll never mark 1984? He might still mark 1984. So we can't say this. This will alter the conclusion altogether. No. Now the second option: how many people choose books other than 1984? Let's park it for a side. Okay. Let's park it aside for a second. How many people read the columnist newspaper? Again, does it have any bearing on this argument? No. And secondly, we're talking about survey was done only on readers. So this is no bearing on this argument. How many books were George Orwell other than 1984 were chosen? Doesn't affect. Okay, maybe 10 more books were chosen. Maybe only this book were chosen. But we are talking about this book versus books of other authors, maybe. Okay, so it's not a comparison between the books written by only George Orwell. So that's not even the argument. Okay. Last, how many of those surveyed had actually read the books they choose? Maybe all of them have read the books, maybe none of them have read the books. Let's say if all of them have read the books, then there is no question. Then they are taking an informed decision. So maybe, let's say none of them have read the books. Maybe they've read, they've heard something about the books from other people, and maybe they've taken a decision based upon that. So it really doesn't, give me two different answers, two different conclusions. Now option B, if you see, how many people choose books other than 1984? Now what is the argument here? This book 1984 has an influence on a lot of people. Now out of 1,000 readers, let's say, there's a situation, let's say 600 choose Bible and 400 choose, let's say, this book 1984. Now can we say a lot of people were influenced by this book 1984? Yes, we can make that argument. Now let's say 999 people chose Bible and only one person chose this book 1984. Can we say a lot of people were influenced by this book? No. So answer to this question can change our conclusion. So this is the most useful or most relevant answer to ask, question to ask, sorry. Let's take one more example. In this paragraph, the CEO says only the products whose profits were increasing will be kept. Otherwise, all other products would be discontinued. Now, the CFO has to make a recommendation to the CEO. Okay, and the product we are talking about, its production cost is rising, but the price that the customers will pay, it's not increasing. They are not willing to pay more. So the profits are going to go down, obviously, and the CFO has to make a decision. Now, the reasoning is because the cost is going up and the profits are going down, so he has to make a recommendation. That's the question in hand. Let's see. Does the company have new and profitable products available with which replace the flagship product? Now, what is the CEO saying? Whichever product is not giving me more profits, discontinue it. Does it say discontinue all the products which can be replaced by products of higher margins? No, he doesn't say that. Second, will the rest of the company's management team agree with the CFO's recommendation? Again, the question is CFO has to make a recommendation. Whether that will be taken or not, that's not our concern. Are there additional features which could be added? He's talking about additional feature. We are talking about the same product. No, we are not talking about a different product. Is there a way to alter the manufacturing and distribution processes in order to reduce the cost to produce the flagship product? Now the whole argument here is profit is going down because the cost is going up and the price is not going up. Now if the cost can be brought down somehow, this is what it is talking about. Okay, the production cost is going down, but there are other costs involved. Okay, marketing cost and distribution cost. Okay, if that can be reduced, the profit can be increased. So that is a question to ask. Okay, CFO can change his recommendations based upon what answer he gets to this question. Last option, what % of the city X's revenue is represented by sales? Again, we're talking about what product what profit can be drawn out of this product, whether it gives me 70% of the revenue. I mean, what is the use of 70% revenue if it is not giving me any profit? This is out, only D